Have you ever been driving down the highway and suddenly found yourself behind a brand new truck that costs more than most people's houses? You know the one I'm talking about. The gleaming monster with chrome everything, leather seats that probably cost more than your monthly rent, and a payment that would make your mortgage broker weep. And here's the thing that really gets me. The person driving it probably makes less money than you do. So, what's going on here? How are regular people somehow affording these astronomical car payments that seem to defy basic mathematics? My name is Stan, and I spend way too much time thinking about money and why people make the financial decisions they do. If you've ever wondered how your neighbor can afford that $70,000 pickup truck while complaining about grocery prices, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps explain this modern mystery. Now, before we dive into the mechanics of how people are pulling this off, let me paint you a picture of what we're actually dealing with here. The average new car payment in America has crossed into territory that would have been considered absolutely insane just a decade ago. We're talking about monthly payments that exceed what many people pay for rent, and yet somehow millions of Americans are signing on the dotted line, driving off the lot in vehicles that cost more than the median household income. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most of these people aren't secretly millionaires hiding their wealth. They're not crypto billionaires or trust fund babies. They're teachers, nurses, mechanics, retail workers, and office employees. Regular folks with regular jobs who somehow found a way to make the numbers work. To make the numbers work, or at least they think they did. The truth is, there's a whole system designed to make these impossible payments seem possible. And understanding how this system works isn't just about satisfying curiosity. It's about protecting yourself from making a financial decision that could derail your future for the next 7 to 10 years. Let's start with the most obvious question. How much are we actually talking about here? Because when I tell people the average car payment numbers, they usually assume I'm making them up. The average new car payment has climbed to over $700 per month. $700, that's not for a luxury vehicle or some exotic sports car. That's the average payment for a regular new car purchased by a regular person. But it gets worse when you start looking at trucks and SUVs, which have become the default choice for most American buyers. These payments routinely exceed $900 per month. And it's not uncommon to see payments over $1,200. $1,200 every single month for 6, 7, or even 8 years. We're talking about payments that total more than $80,000 over the life of the loan. And that's before you factor in insurance, maintenance, and fuel costs. Now, you might be thinking, well, Stan, maybe people are just making a lot more money these days. Maybe wages have gone up enough to support these kinds of payments. And if that's what you're thinking, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's not what's happening at all. The median household income has increased, sure, but nowhere near enough to justify these payment amounts using traditional financial wisdom. So, how are people doing it? The answer lies in a combination of factors. That have fundamentally changed how Americans approach car buying. And none of these factors are necessarily good news for the people signing these loan documents. First, let's talk about loan terms. Remember when a car loan was 3 years, maybe 4 if you really stretched it? Those days are as dead as the flip phone. Today's car loans routinely stretch 6, 7, or 8 years. Some lenders are even offering 10-year car loans, which honestly sounds like something from a financial horror movie. The appeal is obvious. If you spread that $60,000 truck payment over 8 years instead of 4, the monthly payment drops significantly. Suddenly, that truck that would have required a $1,500 monthly payment over 4 years becomes manageable at $900 over 8 years. The monthly number looks reasonable, which is exactly what the buyer focuses on. But here's what most people don't think about when they're sitting in that dealership. By extending the loan term, they're not just lowering the monthly payment, they're dramatically increasing the total amount they'll pay for the vehicle. That $900 payment over 8 years adds up to over $86,000 compared to about $72,000 if they had taken the 4-year loan. That's an extra $14,000 just for the privilege of having a lower monthly payment. Even worse, they'll be making payments on that truck long after it's worth a fraction of what they paid for it. Cars depreciate rapidly, especially in the first few years. By year 5 or 6 of that 8-year loan, they'll owe significantly more than it's worth. They'll be trapped in what's called negative equity, unable to sell or trade the vehicle without writing a check to cover the difference. But extended loan terms are just the beginning of how people are making these payments work. The second major factor is the rise of 0% financing and other promotional interest rates. Walk into any dealership and you'll see signs advertising 0% APR for qualified buyers. Sounds amazing, right? Free money to buy that new truck? Here's the thing about those 0% offers that dealers definitely don't want you to understand. They're not actually free money. The cost of that financing is built into the price of the vehicle. You're either paying full price or getting a discount. More importantly, those 0% offers usually come with strict qualification requirements and shorter loan terms. The people who actually qualify are typically the same people who could afford to pay cash for the vehicle anyway. For everyone else, the interest rates on these extended car loans can be substantial, especially if their credit isn't perfect. Then there's the trade-in game, which has become increasingly important in how people manage these large car payments. After 3 or 4 years, they're tired of the car or want something newer, but they still owe more than it's worth. So they roll that negative equity into a new loan for an even more expensive vehicle. This creates a cycle where people constantly pay for cars they don't own. Their loan balances keep growing even though they're making payments every month. It's like a financial hamster wheel, where the faster you run, the further behind you get. The dealers love this arrangement because it creates customers for life. Once someone is trapped, they become a captive audience for new vehicle purchases. But perhaps the most concerning trend is how normalized these extreme car payments have become. People who would never dream of spending $1,200 on anything else convince themselves it's reasonable. Think about it this way. If someone told you they were spending $1,200 a month on coffee, you'd probably stage an intervention. If they were dropping that much on clothes, you'd assume an addiction. But for a car payment, we just nod and say, well, you need reliable transportation. This normalization didn't happen by accident. It's the result of decades of marketing that has convinced Americans that their vehicle is an extension of their identity. Your truck isn't just transportation. It's a statement about who you are as a person. The automotive industry don't sell cars anymore. They sell lifestyles, dreams, and social status. That commercial showing the rugged truck climbing mountains isn't selling you transportation. It's selling you the fantasy that you're that kind of person. Even though the closest you get to off-roading is parking on grass at the county fair, this emotional manipulation makes it much easier for people to justify payments that would otherwise seem completely irrational. When it's an investment in yourself, it feels okay. But let's get back to the practical mechanics, because even with emotional justification, $700 to $1,200 is still a lot of money. This is where things get really creative. And by creative, I mean potentially disastrous for long-term financial health. Many people are restructuring their entire financial lives around their car payment. I've seen people move to smaller apartments or stay with roommates longer just so they can afford their dream truck. They'll eat ramen noodles while driving a vehicle that costs more than some houses. Some people are taking on second jobs specifically to cover their vehicle expenses. They'll drive for rideshare companies, using their expensive truck to generate the income needed to pay for that same expensive truck. It's like a bizarre form of automotive indentured servitude. Others are dipping into retirement accounts or taking loans against their 401k to make down payments. They're borrowing from their future selves to fund their current transportation fantasies. They don't realize they're potentially sacrificing hundreds of thousands in future wealth. Then there's the credit card shuffle. People will put maintenance, insurance, and fuel on credit cards to free up cash for their car payment. They're essentially using high-interest debt to subsidize their transportation costs, which is like using a blowtorch to light a cigarette. The most concerning trend is taking out personal loans or home equity loans to cover down payments. They're leveraging their homes to buy cars, which fundamentally misunderstands the purpose of both assets. Your house should build wealth, your car should get you from A to B. Many people are doing this for multiple vehicles. The average American household now owns more cars than licensed drivers, which is mathematically impressive and financially terrifying. Dad has his truck, mom has her SUV, and maybe there's a third for adventures. They've essentially created their own personal auto financing companies, except they're hemorrhaging money. They measure success by their ability to keep all the plates spinning, rather than questioning whether they need to be spinning plates at all. And then there's the insurance component. Insuring a $60,000 truck costs significantly more. Families with multiple expensive vehicles can approach $500 monthly. That's $6,000 per year just for the privilege of legally driving their depreciating assets. The maintenance costs present another surprise. Modern vehicles are incredibly complex. A simple brake job can cost $1,200. Transmission problems can run $5,000. Many people have zero emergency funds for these repairs, leading to a vicious debt spiral. You'll see people with pristine $70,000 trucks sitting in their driveways while they frantically search their couch cushions for gas money. It's like having a Rolex watch while living on ramen noodles. Technically impressive, but missing the point entirely. The fuel costs alone for these massive vehicles can approach what people used to pay for entire car payments. When you're driving a truck that gets 15 miles per gallon and gas prices fluctuate, you're looking at fuel costs that can easily exceed $400 per month. Let's run the real numbers. Imagine someone buys a $55,000 truck with a 7-year loan. Their monthly payment works out to about $800. Over the life of that loan, they'll pay approximately $67,000 total. Add in insurance, fuel, and maintenance, and it's a disaster. When you add it all up, this person will spend over $130,000 over 7 years, and at the end, they'll own a vehicle worth maybe $15,000. That's not transportation financing, plus wealth destruction with cup holders and heated seats. The most depressing part is what that same money could have accomplished if invested. If they took that $800 monthly and put it in an index fund, they'd have over $70,000 after 7 years. They would have actually built wealth instead of destroying it. People aren't actually affording these payments. They're just kicking the financial can down the road. The next time you see someone driving a vehicle that costs more than your house, remember they're probably eating cereal for dinner to afford it. And maybe that reliable used car in your driveway isn't looking so bad after all.